to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Thill?
Here.
Commissioner Corbett?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Mayor Lindsay?
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances and acknowledgements, is there anything anyone wants removed from the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I want the board appointments just removed. We have 2 available,
Okay.
and we'll do them both at the same time.
Sounds good.
Second.
Okay.
And that was a motion.
Okay. Do we have a motion to on the consent calendar as amended?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no old business, under new business. Authorize the mayor to sign the easement and agreement with Jimsco Incorporated, Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue floodplain. And Chad, I'm going to ask you if you would address that, please.
Thank you. In the agenda packet, you see an easement and agreement document that's been signed by the owner of Jimsco Incorporated, the trailer park down near Union and 4th Street southwest. You may recall there was some hydraulic analysis for a floodplain to be able to see if that property could be graded and not result in a rise in the water surface elevation. It's a requirement that FEMA has if you're doing anything in the floodplain. Indeed, the engineer on that was able to accomplish the analysis and model it to document and verify and certify that there will be a no rise with a level, essentially a level grading plan. However, there was some components to that where the water had to drain from that property to the creek, basically, and so we pursued different options of getting the water to the creek, one of which would include installing some pipes through what appears to be a berm there. I mean, it is a berm, essentially. I don't know if it was constructed to any standard or whatever. It's been there for quite some time. But that berm is actually on the trailer park property. They own across the creek and to the north. And so we had to get an easement from them to put some pipe through that berm. And this has been quite a long process in back and forth and so on with him and his attorney and Mr. Jenks and myself for him to grant the easement to do that. And so there's a temporary component of the during construction easement and then the permanent component. He was concerned, among other things, about flooding, additional flooding on his property, as you could expect. And indeed, that's what the no-rise certificate indicates, that there will be no rise should these improvements take place. And so the easement has been prepared and reviewed by Mr. Jenks. It's in the agenda packet, and it's before you for consideration for approval. I would recommend that you authorize the mayor to sign that easement.
And I noticed in that there's people here in the audience, and I'm sure this is one of the concerns that you have. That area down there, there's 8 acres there that does belong to the city that's in the floodplain. And one of the concerns in that I've had over the years, and that is we have an athletic complex down there. We have a growing soccer field need, and we have this property that was taken over as part of the flood buyout system. So it was important to know, can we do anything with that? And so that's what the research has been done. And at this point in time, and probably through 2020, there are no plans other than getting the paperwork necessary so that if something could be done in the future and that we had the questions answered. So at this point in time, there's nothing for 2018. There may be, if everything still proves out right, we may be looking at smoothing that off, at least on the south side, and that for 2019. And then that would allow it to be used for practice soccer fields and that. But The other drawing that you saw in here was in the future, if there was to be an expansion of the softball fields down there, would it fit? And so these are all things in that we've been researching for the last couple years, and that's what this is tonight, is this is just one more step in looking at the possible future use of that particular floodplain area. And I would ask if anyone had any questions from the audience at this time that I haven't answered. Yes, sir.
What's the cost to do this drain tile thing?
Chad has an estimate.
There was some cost for the grading of that property and to put in these pipes through the berm, et cetera. And this excludes any of the, let me take a side here for a moment if I could. This sort of started with a discussion of ball fields in which there'd be fence and dugouts and so on like that. But that wasn't included in the cost I have an estimate for that I'm going to tell you right now. But the cost for just the grading and putting in these pipes was about $219,000 for grading that area and constructing it so that it meets the slopes outlined in that no-rise certificate. That's the estimate in 2017 dollars.
Where's the money for that coming from?
That is something that has not even been discussed, and like I said, it's not in the 2018 budget, and it may be something discussed in 2019 or 2020. The thing that we do know is that we have growing athletics in the city of Madison, and I want to look at it from where could we do it the cheapest, and this is already property that we own. If we had to go out and purchase land and that, we'd be talking $10,000 to $20,000 an acre, and then you'd have to put in infrastructure and everything else. So one of the things that I like to look at is we have a lot of these flood buyout properties. Is there anything that we can use them for, as things develop in the future? But the estimate is there in 2017 dollars. There is nothing planned in 2018, and it may or may not be a discussion in 2019. But the one thing that we do know is we have 8 acres that we do have to maintain, and there is a possibility it could be used for some of the summer recreation programs that are growing.
Would you do away with the gardens there then?
No, I don't envision we do anything on the north side, at this point in time. But the one thing we can do is the gardens can be moved to other flood buyout properties. So we would not eliminate the gardens. If anything happened, they would be moved to other locations where water is available. Yes, sir.
So the estimate that we have now is $219,000?
Correct.
And we're not going to do anything for a minimum of 1 to 2 years.
Correct.
So what's going to be the increase in the cost then? We're at $219 right now estimate. Is there an estimate of what it's going to be like?
No. The desire that I had was to find out if the property could be used because the city already owns it.
Sure.
And so that has been an ongoing process. We've been working on this for a few years. And this is just one more step in getting that no-rise certificate to find out that we do have 8 acres there that could be used that's already adjacent to an existing park facility. So if the city needed to, or desired to move forward on the athletics, they wouldn't have to go out and build everything totally brand new.
Sure.
So this is just the point that we're at right now, is one more step in finding out that we could use it.
So you had to go through environmental resources?
You do have to do all of that, yes. Yes.
Because that's kind of like a farmer. He can't level anything out in a slough. And this is kind of like a floodplain, and a slough is a floodplain.
No, there's a difference between a designated floodwaters and one that is in a flood zone, because there are different zones, okay? And so in the flood zone, what you do is not to affect your neighbors, okay? It's like the creek. People say, well, we should widen the creek. We should put in wider bridges. What we do then is send the water through faster and give it to Lake Madison and the people down below. So when bridges and that are replaced and that, there are limits on what size we can make them and how much we can do on the creek for that same reason. We're passing it on. But if you're talking in a wetland, yeah, that's a different scenario. This is not a wetland. This is an area that does accept floodwaters in those rare instances.
Well, I think when Madison was probably farther north, it probably was a wetland at one time, but it's been determined otherwise now, so.
Where the high school is at one time was a wetland.
Yep, I realize that.
Yes. But, you know, the rules and regulations have changed.
They do change,
Mhm.
I will admit that.
Okay, so how is this money gonna come to pay for all this stuff? And-
That'll
and
be
how much-
something, that'll be,
How much is the Park and Recreation in debt already?
that's something that would be determined in the future.
We shouldn't rob Peter to pay Paul to do all this stuff.
You're a part of a city, and we have a lot of different departments in the city. There's also things in that different departments in that, expect. We generate a lot of income and a lot of, and that from the recreation facilities that go on all year long. And if we had to go out and build a whole new facility, we'd be talking in the millions of dollars because we'd have to put in all the infrastructure and everything else.
I don't think
My
we need to
question
do
on
one. I don't
this-
think we need one, period.
That's one opinion. Okay, that's
There's
one
many
opinion.
opinions of that, I think you're,
Okay, that's one opinion. This isn't, as an argument. The point is that if we have an opportunity to find out if we can use those 8 acres for other than lawn mowing, and we have a facility that is already there. So if there was to be an expansion in the future, and we already know we're having expansions in the soccer program. And so those programs and that will continue to grow, will continue to be supported by the city. And so the question is, can we use land that's already owned by the city and not have to build a whole new facility? So this is just one more step in that process. There's nothing planned. It'll be to future commissions to determine if anything's going to happen. But what this has done now for the last few years that we've been going through these steps is it shows that 8 acres that's adjacent to the current softball fields could be used. There is no budgeting planned or anything at this point in time. That's why I say the earliest, if any discussions were to be happen, would be 2019. Yes.
So you're talking about using the whole area between the creek and the road?
Yes.
I mean, we're not talking just about that area.
No,
that's
that
mowed
is
down.
correct. The entire area was, can it be allowed to be used for future development of an athletic complex?
So you take
Yes.
all the trees down and what would be there?
That would be determined in the future. The point that we were trying to work out here is we've got the creek there. We already know we've had some flood issues in that, Madison deals with floods. But what I wanted to find out is we already have land we own. If the athletics were to continue to grow the way they are, can we use what we already own rather than buy something new?
What does the recreation department bring in?
That's a whole different thing, okay? It would not come necessarily, it would be something that the commission would have to determine where the dollars are coming from.
What I mean,
Your parks,
Just to
your parks,
maintain-
your
just to
parks
main-
are not an income generator for the city parks that we have.
right, so you don't
So
need any-
mowing that property brings in 0 income. But
Right.
if you have an athletic event taking place, that does generate dollars for the town.
How?
That money does not go to the parks, that money goes to the general fund or into the businesses that are part of our town.
What would
I don't-
they-
Paul?
how do they bring money in?
Paul, I don't have the answers for you.
I mean, just a
What I'm
concession
saying
stand,
is
or
we're looking at the future of the city. Can the city use property it already has versus having to purchase and build new complexes like other towns are doing?
what? That's fine. I just.
That's all we've got for an answer at this point.
Because, I mean, you say you bring in revenue.
It does.
Where?
Every time, it brings money into town through sales tax. It's huge for the city. When we have ball tournaments in the summertime and that, the city generates additional sales tax from the visitation of those people that come to town.
But
So
not,
they get charged to see the games.
No, they shop at the in the businesses in town. They go out to dinner at the restaurants in town. It is obvious in that, as a restaurant owner, that when there's a full ball field at Bachman Park, sales are up for those days and those weekends. And that money is collected and goes to the state and to the city. And it's also, one of the things in that you do to keep your town vital.
but you're in debt.
That's a different story. This is something, each debt has an item that it is assigned to. Okay? Each debt has an item it's assigned to. You had your question?
Well, I guess you were kind of answering that. I know
Okay.
you're not even there yet, you're talking about, but.
We're not.
but
It's a
the
process.
Parks Department has no money, so that money
That
has
is
to come from
correct.
somewhere, and you haven't decided where that's coming from yet. You
No,
have
and that'll be
idea.
for a future commission to determine.
Okay. No.
What we are finding out is we've taken a few years to get to this point, and it's just one more step toward it. There is nothing determined, we don't have anything even planned, other than if we level it, then we will meet FEMA's requirements at some time in the future, and if it's leveled, it could be used for the soccer program real quickly. Because then you just have portable nets you bring in and you take out. So,
And you think Trump's going to have FEMA around and all these grants available?
I'm not making those predictions. I'm not making those predictions. The one thing that I do know is life goes on, and everyday things move forward. So,
I'll just mention, I mean, we go through the budget process, as you know, Georgie, and as it's a commission decision as to, where that money comes from, how it moves around, and things as well. And actually, this commission over the past 6 years has done a fairly decent job, I will say, of eliminating and reducing some of our debt. And we've taken advantage of some low interests and different things to pay a lot of that off. So, do we have debt? Absolutely. And every city basically should carry some debt because that's the way things work in the finance world. But really, everybody's welcome to be there for the budget hearings, and we listen to our department heads, and they bring ideas to us, and then we as a commission we hash those out over, and some of them get to be pretty late in the evening, and so that's when those decisions are made, just so we're all clear on that.
Just one more question.
yes. Go ahead, Paul.
Do you think is there a possibility they're going to be able to allow other land to be used for gardens, or is that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we can use that.
I'll address that
Yes.
if I may, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. We actually addressed that and talked about that as a commission, and I'm not going to speak for Commissioner Johnson, he's not here, but I know he was very adamant, as am I. Absolutely, I mean, we're not going to take something away, and certainly not the gardens. I mean, those, they've been there for a long time. We have plenty of other areas, and I think Commissioner Johnson, he's the commissioner for the parks, and I think he's even started to think about some other areas where those would be. So rest assured, those would not be going away.
I guess, just listening to the people talk here, in the past, what I've heard from other people, and even from the commissioner, is the Park and Rec is not a moneymaker.
Correct.
And we take money from utility to, like the electric,
A portion.
right,
A
we
portion.
take a portion to help them out.
Right.
I have nothing that's fine if that's what you guys decide. But I'm thinking what I'm hearing is, okay, if we have to do that and raise our utilities to help the Park and Rec out, and then you guys want to add more fields in the future, is that going to be enough to offset to make money? So we don't have to steal any more money or take
And
money
actually, we're
from-
not stealing money. Let's clarify
Okay.
that.
Or
Number
taking
one,
money
nope,
from the
let
department.
me explain. If we had a private utility town, and we do, we have East River. East River pays property tax. That money comes in and helps support the city. If our city utilities were owned by Excel, we would be receiving a lot of property tax in value. We are receiving money for assisting the citizens as monies in lieu of property tax. Part of the reason that you own the utilities is to generate money to help the citizens of the town.
And I fully
And so,
understand that.
saying that we're stealing from the electric and utilities is not correct. And it's, but what it does do is a portion of utilities, as well as general fund, as well as other funds, all go to help those entities that do not generate enough income.
And I
You
understand.
talk about debt. Part of our debt was voted on by the public. That's the swimming pool. The swimming pool was voted in by the citizens. So the debt that we're paying on the swimming pool does come from the budget, but it was voted on from the citizens. The citizens wanted it.
And I understand that.
Sure.
And I misspoke when I said steal from another company.
Thank you.
But you do take from this department to
And
help
we
out
take
another
from general
department.
fund, absolutely.
And I have no problem
Right.
with that. I'm just asking, is what I'm hearing is, okay, if we don't generate enough money there and you wanted to add more fields, are we going to get...
That would be a general fund expense.
Right. But are we going to have to up something else to help pay for that?
That's up.
I think
Every
that's
year.
what I'm hearing.
Every year is a budget process.
Yeah.
Every year in that, the commission sits down and looks at the things that they plan on for 15 months down the road. Okay? Tonight, we're going to be looking at the supplemental budget. When we put the budget together 15 months ago, there were things in that were not foreseen, things in that happened, but there's also other things that go on, like out at the airport. We spend a lot of money out at the airport doing reconstruction and things. The city pays 5%, the state pays 5%, FAA pays 90%. We have to pay for it up front, they reimburse us. So it's part of the supplemental, and Jen will correct me if I'm wrong, part of the supplemental is because of delay in funds, to finish up 2017. So, but from this commission, this step that we're on right now is just to determine if in the future something was determined to be developed down there, can it be done? And it's been a few year process to get to this point, and we're not finished yet. But this is one more step.
So the swimming pool is the only one that brings in money, basically?
No, it does not bring in enough to make the payments. But it was voted in by the people. The people said, we want a swimming pool, and the commission had to determine how to bond for it and how to pay for it. And that happened long before this commission was here.
But it's been many years. I mean,
It is, and it's still not paid for. So that is part of the city debt.
Are we spending any money approving this easement?
No.
Not on this, no.
So the landowner to the south of the creek owns part of the north?
The
That's why
property
we're
owner,
getting an
yeah.
easement?
20 feet north of the creek,
Right.
Yeah.
About that, yeah.
or 25, somewhere around there.
How long is the easement good for? Like forever?
Yes, yes, there's some terms in there that talk about when it can be terminated, if there's some damages caused and such like that, but that would be way after any pipes are, commission would decide to do it, it would do it, pipes are installed and there's damages, and then the city would have recourse to try to address that in the future as well, so.
And currently, the water runs around that anyway on the west end by the bridge and comes out of the creek into that area and goes back into the creek in that area, and on the east end.
How did this come about right now, I guess?
This easement,
Yeah.
Basically, it was a process that the landowner, for us to be able to put those pipes in and drain it in the fashion that's shown, that we needed to have an easement from the landowner. And so he wasn't prepared to sign the easement until such time that he could have a certified no-rise, a no-rise certificate which has been certified by a professional engineer, executed and completed. And that's, we did just get that done
To meet the
a
FEMA
couple
requirements.
months ago. When he was able to review that and accept that, then he was willing to continue the negotiation of the terms of the easement, and that was one of them, and he was satisfied with that, and the other items he's satisfied, and so then he signed it and provided it. So it's just a matter of, I guess as the mayor had said a couple times, you know, first step was verify no rise, second step would be, we need to have permission to put the pipes in how it's shown, and then from that point, you know, the public and the commission has to consider the options going forward. At least we know now that it can be done.
That it gives the city a choice,
Correct. It gives that option.
which we didn't know before.
Right.
Yes.
So was it a hydrologist that looked at that then?
A hydraulic engineer, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The PE.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
That's a requirement of FEMA, the licensed PE
Yeah.
who has expertise in that field to do that, yes.
And where was he from?
Well, he was, SEH was the firm that did that. I don't believe and they have an office in Sioux Falls. I don't know if he was physically stationed in Sioux Falls or another location, but that's who we worked with.
And they did soil samples and everything to do that?
Well, that would be subsurface. You know, this is just the surface, the flow of the water
Surface.
over the surface.
Okay.
And so they didn't have to get into that as far as this certification.
But do you have to get into that later on?
Maybe for compaction purposes, but we're not building any structures, you know, we just want to make sure that it doesn't settle and such like that.
No, but you're gonna be moving a lot of dirt in order to make it level too, so.
We would have to do some, you know, to
Yeah.
make sure that it's graded appropriately. Yeah, some, to some extent. It's not as intense if you're building structures, you know, and you're putting foundations and such like that in. But, and then there's also some subsequent DENR permitting necessary when you're working near the waterway,
Yep.
you know, where that pipe was going to discharge and so on.
I guess I'd like to say one thing. I am not too much in favor of softball diamonds if it's for soccer fields, but that program's got to increase a lot more. But until our softball diamonds down here at Thuy is being used every night of the week, 5 nights a week, I'm not in favor of building any more softball diamonds and moving the gardens to another spot. And another thing, if we put softball diamonds in there, are we gonna have to close off that street?
Goes off what street?
4th Street, because
No.
when you hit a foul
No.
ball, it's gonna go out in the street.
No.
It does right now in the other ball.
Well, right now in that, we're taking out windows in people's homes.
Well,
So, you know,
we
we
could
dealt
move-
with that.
we could
We
move
raised
that
the
ball
fence up
diamond
10
to-
feet and that still didn't do it.
we could move them people to the other diamond, and there's already 5 light poles put up. We could put a fence up, and they could hit the balls out in the creek.
There's a lot of things that can be done. This isn't part of that.
Okay,
This is just to determine if we could do something with that land other than mow it. Because currently, the only 2 things in that we have down there are gardens and a lot of land that we mow. And so it's otherwise, if something else in the future comes up, you know, then they would have to go somewhere else to purchase land and build a new facility.
Or start this process all over.
You know, or start this process all over again. It's taken us a few years just to get to this point. So,
So if we change the use of the land, would it do anything to the easement we're trying to approve tonight?
No,
no.
this was just the grading.
Drainage.
It's, you know, when you come up with a no-rise, you have to give you know, the existing ground topography and surface, and then you create a new surface electronically, you know, and then they model the flow before on the old surface, and then they model it with the proposed new surface. and then they have to verify that there'll be literally no rise, that's the no rise certificate, to affect the adjacent landowners. So it would have to be constructed exactly, more or less, exactly how this engineer has certified it for that no rise certificate to be valid. So that's all that would do is grade it exactly as it's shown. Any deviations from that, you may have to update it. We prefer not to, because we try to anticipate as best we can. And this can be a leveled space that can be used for future ball fields, for soccer fields, of course. Now, there may be some things with putting parking there, because now you're adding some structural components, and pavement is permeable as grass, and so all those different things may trigger an update. We're hoping not, because the input that we had as this was being put together was we just wanted to have a level field, so to speak.
And that area is fairly level now. You know, it's just got some, little
Yeah.
rises in that in it to where, it doesn't make for use in its current condition, because it's not smooth enough, so.
And it could sit there for 20 years,
It could.
the way it is right now.
It could.
Absolutely. The only risk there could be is FEMA's looking to upgrade their maps, probably, I just talked to the gal today, within 5 to 7 years. If this no rise certificate is approved, which this allows for that grading, if they have a new map, like our maps are updated, they were done in 82 and then 09, if they're done again in 2023 to 2027, sometime there, and we haven't proceeded with this, then in that event, you may have to start over with this process.
Other questions or comments? Okay. Not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign easement and agreement with Jim's Co. Incorporated, Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue floodplain.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 2, first reading of ordinance number 1600, supplemental appropriations for 2017. And I'll ask Jen to explain this.
I will. All right, ordinance number 1600, AKA your supplemental budget for year 2017. You will note a bottom line budget supplement of $1.3 million. However, there's no surprises in this document. These supplements include the use of reserves as authorized by you throughout the year, expenditures that have been offset by grant revenue, and also agreed upon project changes. Late last Friday, you gentlemen received a document that detailed each supplement, every single supplement, and where it was coming from and why it was needing supplement. So tonight we're just going to discuss a handful of the larger dollar amounts here. Starting with the general fund, general government buildings, 4253, repair, maintenance, building and structure. You'll see a supplement for $133,000. That needs to come from cash balance for dollars spent on Link property, about $111,000 to date. And then also 2 reserves applied, a depot reserve and also finance office remodel reserve. Moving on down, airport, 5433 improvements. You're going to see a $639,000 budget supplement. However, please note, $412,000 of this is coming from federal grant. Because of the way that these projects change over the years, we budget for them the best way we can, and then the projects change. So even though the expenditure is less, or excuse me, the expenditure is higher, so is the federal grant, the revenue that we have gotten from the grant. Okay, and then also cash.
Excuse me, Jen,
Yeah,
400 and what was coming back?
$412,000.
412, okay.
Is coming from federal grant.
Okay, thank you.
Which leaves a cash balance supplement of about $226,000. However, we will recoup 95% of that too, yet in 2018. We've got 2 projects right now that are in closeout status.
Yep.
We have, and we can't, at this point, we can't draw down any more for those projects, okay?
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions on that airport one? Okay. Moving on down, second cent sales tax. tax fund. Supplement of $425,000. This has to come also from cash reserves based on some project overages. Highway 34 Second Street rebuild, the 2017 water main project, and also the 2017 surface improvement project. However, these had all been discussed at the time. Project overages were due to adjustment of unit quantities that were discussed at the time. Post-bid additions based on project additions recommendations from the group, along with some project change orders. Also, we had some unbudgeted 2018 project expenditures that were realized in 2017 simply for engineering services for the Highway 34 Washington Avenue project, the 2018 Center Street box culvert, and the 2018 Garfield Avenue box culvert. Engineering for those upcoming projects that are budgeted for in 2018. Same is true there with the line below, the special maintenance fee fund, a supplement of $57,000. That was also due to some change orders for that project. Finally there, you will see a supplement for the Grant Circle TID. The TIF that we have in place, $33,000 there. However, that is completely offset by general property tax current year. That is simply due to a change in coding, due to audit recommendations. That is a complete wash. That revenue to expenditure is a complete wash. Questions at all? Otherwise, we would schedule second reading 2 weeks from tonight on January 9th.
Questions or comments?
Looks like about everything
We've
gone
discussed,
through the
I
year.
would say, all this stuff, and we're just cleaning it up now.
You can supplement quarterly, you can supplement a couple times a year, you can supplement grants as they come in. I prefer to do it all in one lump sum at the end of the year. Again, they're all discussed, there should be no surprises here.
Any issues, Bob?
No. We've all talked about it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading of ordinance number 1600, supplemental appropriations for 2017.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Number 3, approve application for the taxi cab license with Madison Taxi Service. Again, I'll ask Jen if you would briefly review that.
Yes, you have in front of you an application from our friend Alan, who would like to continue his taxi service based on ordinance number 731, which was actually adopted before I was born. We have to, and I'm getting old, but we have to approve these at the end of every year. So this is for a calendar year. Any taxi cab license has to be applied for and given your blessing once again.
Any public safety issues, Commissioner Waldner?
Going to be my question.
None that we've heard of. You know, it's on occasion we come across other people that like to give rides home, and we're okay with that as long as they're doing it properly and not taking money. I mean, obviously, if they're doing it for a fee, then they fall underneath this ordinance, and the police are well aware of those individuals and have made sure that they're not doing that.
So this is our only for-fee official taxi in town.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve application for taxi cab license, Madison Taxi Service.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 4, approve the application for the commercial haulers license for Bud's Cleanup Service. Again, I'll ask Jen to address this one.
Same process is required here for the annual commercial hauler license. That's for ordinance number 1195, which was changed back in 1994. But same process, and Bud's is the only other garbage hauler in town.
Is that before or after you were born?
All right. Any questions at all? Comments? Motion.
We welcome this commercial hauler in our community. They do a nice job, and I know they work well with our public works people. I'll make a motion to approve the application for commercial hauler license, Bud's Cleanup Service.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bid number 866, review and award bid for chemicals, and I'll ask Chad to address this one.
Thank you, Your Honor. The bid tabulation is included in your agenda packet. For chemicals, we opened bids for that on December 20th, last week. There are schedules A through F for chemicals that I coordinate with the Public Works Department, particularly Rick Nybert, for chemicals for the water plant. There were 5 bidders on these various items. Included the low bid for schedules B, D, E, and F was Hawkins out of Roseville, Minnesota. We did not receive a bid for Schedule C, carbon dioxide. That's a relatively smaller item that Rick usually can just go out and get that secured. I don't really even get involved in that typically, but we keep it in the bid package anyway in case somebody wants to bid it. The other item, Schedule A, which I haven't talked about yet, we had a new bidder this year, Hoist North America, out of, St. Genevieve, Missouri. They were the low bid. However, Rick and I had talked with them both last week after we bid quite a bit, and their product doesn't seem to meet our needs. They have 2 products that I'll just describe it this way. One's a little bit larger than the pebbles we need, the lime pebbles we need, and one's a little bit smaller. But neither one quite sort of fits into the right gradation that we needed. And so we talked with them. We tried to see if what was going on, if they had other alternatives, and they just couldn't have one that would work for us. We indicated to them that we probably will not be able to go with them for that reason. While they regret it and they look forward to an opportunity to work with us, they understood. So I believe it's appropriate, and maybe, well, Dave's not here, but I believe it might be appropriate to actually reject their bid because they don't conform to our specifications for the cleanest. They've indicated to me verbally that they're not going to raise this as an issue, but that may be the most appropriate course of action to take, is to reject their bid. So then the low bid now becomes Pete Lean & Sons, who has supplied us for several years. Their price was just $1.50 per ton higher than last year, so it's reasonable, and it's within the realm of what we would expect for prices. So I would recommend that we also award that to Pete Lean & Sons, Schedule A. So probably 2 motions.
And have you visited with David on this prior to the meeting?
He was included in the correspondence. I didn't talk to him personally about it, but he was fully in the loop of our dialogue with them and such like that. Yes, I've talked to him about it.
Did you have any correspondence via writing or email with the Missouri company?
I did.
Okay,
We
so
advised them of our recommended course of action, which was be to not use their product and to reject their bid.
Okay, and then did they give a response in writing?
Not in writing, verbally. It was Friday afternoon.
Sure.
He was calling. He was off work. Actually, their offices were closed, and so he wasn't able to get at that. Yeah, that's the correspondence there.
I'm going to ask one other question. Is it possible in that portion of the bid be delayed a week? To get something in writing from them so we don't have to deal with it just legally.
Can we table that just for a week? Is
Just
that gonna put
just
Rick
table
behind?
the lime purchase?
I think that would be fine. I think we like to get the contracts in place before the end of the year, but 1 week, the bids are still valid because we have 30 days to review and accept the bids.
Okay.
So I think if you would want to accept all the others from Hawkins and just delay that portion.
We'd have till January 20th, basically.
Right, and we could.
And we meet January 9th. I guess I would feel more comfortable in that, getting something in writing from them, understanding, why we rejected it, and then also getting David's opinion since he's not here.
Sure.
just to, have our
Out of an abundance of
I's
caution.
dotted and
I
T's
agree.
crossed.
We need something in writing too.
So with
Commissioner
that,
Corbin, that's not gonna put, I mean, we got enough on it, okay. So with that, I'll make a motion that we table Schedule A of bid number 866.
and let's do these as two separate motions.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, for the items on Schedule
Could I ask
B
a
through F.
question? Just one question.
Certainly.
The byproduct of the water treatment plant, is that sold or is that just wasted?
Mr. Corbin?
Typically, it gets hauled to Reineke's pit, I believe. There have been some feedlots that have taken it. You're a farmer, I understand. You know
Well,
our
that's
pHs
what
are
I was
high enough
getting at,
around
yeah.
here. So, further south, like around Vermillion, especially in Iowa, farmers pay money for that because they want to increase the pH of their soil. Well, we don't really have that issue around here. But it does work nice in feedlots.
Well, I'm
To,
just saying that there are people that would pay for it if that's feasible, because we have to get ours down from Sioux Center, Iowa. And there's tons of it that come this way.
They,
I was just
they dry the beds out every few years and haul it out. They did it a year ago, I think. So I've asked Rick if he could look into it to see if there is a market in the area. We'll look into it again. If you're interested, I'll have him reach out to you.
We're always interested in cutting our costs, just like you guys are.
Very good.
And so, yeah, if you look into it.
Is that lime down there coming from a lime softening plant? From Sioux Center?
Yeah, that's where they said they came from the last time. All I know is that we get it from, let's see, who is it? Lacey's, south of Salem. And they go and pick it up for us.
Is it
I'd
a
like-
limestone byproduct, or is it lime that's
I think it
used in the
comes out
treatment
of a
process?
Okay,
water treatment plant.
And-
Commissioner Corbin?
Sorry.
Point of order.
Thank you.
I would like you two to continue this discussion and that, I really would, but
But I know,
it's
you
not-
gotta get going, I'm
But,
sorry.
well, no, it's not on our agenda,
I'm sorry.
And so, no, I'm.
We
but
were
I-
talking about lime.
Yes, I know. I would like you guys to continue this discussion because if it benefits both of them, that, all well and good. But I'd like to stay on what's on our agenda for this evening.
Sorry.
So at this point in time in that, do we have a motion for those items, Schedules B through F, with the exception of C?
I'll make a motion that we approve Schedule let's see, Schedule B, D, E, and F to Hawkins Incorporated for city bid number 866.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. All right. And now, under announcements, change of meeting date from January 1st to January 2nd. And so, with that, there's no executive session. Do
Did
we-
you pull a board appointment, or did you table it? What
Yeah,
did you do?
Just table it.
Just table it.
Okay.
Say, Mayor, I
Yes.
have one question for you, adjourn. Maybe it's because of the holidays, or maybe I missed it, but the last couple of Fridays, I haven't seen the agenda in the paper.
It's coming out about 3 o'clock. And if it's missing the deadline, that could be it's missing the print deadline. Our agenda deadline in our office is 11 o'clock as per ordinance, and
Yep.
oftentimes it's just hard to get that rolled out by 12 or 12:30. For instance, chemicals. I mean, this chemical didn't
Yeah.
come through until late on, this was a late on Friday for a Tuesday meeting. That's why.
But it is online, and copies are in the office, so.
I'm one of the
Entire
only
agenda.
people who don't have a computer.
Oh,
Okay. The entire agenda packet
Yeah.
is posted every single week.
No.
no. All right, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, no, if you guys have a need for lime and heat,